The living room was dead silent. My parents stared at the 0 next to my name on the report card, frowning in frustration. Ivy, even though you grew up in the countryside, how could you neglect your studies this badly? Vera Song leaned against my mother, pretending to speak casually. Even if my sister isn't good at studying, she shouldn't have scored 0, right? I heard from classmates that she handed in a blank test because she has a crush on Theo Jiang and wants to be with him in class 13. She immediately covered her mouth as if she had said something wrong. But when she looked up at me, her eyes were filled with unconcealed triumph. My father's face turned livid with anger. He snapped, "If that's the case, then I won't pull any strings to get you into a better class. You can just go to class 13 and ruin yourself." Before I could return to my room, Vera Song stopped me with a bright smile. "I know you've been reborn too, but so what? This time, I've taken the lead." I glanced at the transcript. "Is this the head start you were talking about?" Her face twisted instantly, her voice turning shrill. "If you hadn't returned to the Song family and disrupted my peaceful life, why would I have tried to get close to Theo Jiang just to suppress you, only to end up being humiliated and bullied by him and his friends?" I expressionlessly averted my gaze and raised my hand to close the door. Vera Song said sharply, "Ivy Song, what are you pretending for? Don't think the Song family can protect you. Class 13 is full of thugs. This time, it's your turn to be bullied and humiliated by them." Vera Song is right. The Song family can't protect me at all. Or rather, they simply won't protect me. When I was 6 years old, my father brought home 5-year-old Vera Song and asked my mother for a divorce. My mother, who had followed my father overseas for love to pursue business, left me at my grandmother's house in the countryside. That abandonment lasted 10 years. It wasn't until recently, when my parents remarried, that I was brought back to the Song family. By then, however, Vera Song had already been by my father's side all along, showered with affection, so their attitude toward me wasn't exactly warm. In our past life, Vera Song willingly degraded herself by transferring to class 13 to chase after Theo Jiang. My father only said a few angry words but still wanted to transfer her out. Unfortunately, Vera Song stubbornly refused. When it came to me, they simply let me be. Under the torment of the people in class 13, Vera Song nearly broke down and developed depression. Even in such a situation, the Song family couldn't protect her, let alone me, an invisible presence. After packing my things, my gaze fell on that report card. It was originally Vera Song who handed in a blank exam paper. We were both reborn, and she was one step ahead, swapping our exam numbers. Thinking of what she just said, I let out a scornful laugh. A troublemaker, back in Qingping village. I'd never heard of anyone more troublesome than me. The next day, my infatuation with Theo Jiang, and how I deliberately turned in a blank exam to get into class 13, quickly spread throughout the school. Theo Jiang had been a prominent figure in the school since his first year of high school. Handsome and from a wealthy family, he skipped classes and got into fights every day, making him the ringleader of a group of spoiled, unruly teenagers. His behavior was so terrible that even the teachers couldn't handle him. Many followed his lead, and the school had to create a special class 13 to accommodate these hopeless youths. Even the student with the lowest grades fell within the scope of class 13's intake. As I stepped into the class 13 classroom with my newly issued books, a stool came flying toward me. I barely dodged it, but the books in my hands scattered all over the floor, just as I bent down to pick them up. A pair of limited edition sneakers stepped on my textbook. I looked up and met a pair of disdainful, peach blossom eyes. A few boys nearby started jeering. "Theo, so this is the girl who turned in a blank exam for you. Wow, how deeply devoted. I've looked into it. She's the eldest daughter of the Song family, from the countryside. No wonder she dresses so unfashionably. Hey, little country bumpkin, don't you know Theo likes girls with good figures and fair skin? Someone like you isn't even worthy of kneeling down to lick his shoes." My gaze swept around and finally settled on Theo Jiang. I let out a cold sneer. "Don't flatter yourself. Who do you think you are to make me turn in a blank exam? I was just in a bad mood and felt like scoring a 0 for fun." What a conceited and cringy man. After saying that, I stomped hard on Theo Jiang's shoe with the 30 yuan canvas shoes I bought in the countryside and hadn't had time to change out of. Throughout the entire morning self-study session, I calmly endured Theo Jiang's doubtful gaze. During the break, I got up to go to the restroom. As I reached the door, I caught a glimpse of several shadows in my peripheral vision. I sneered, pulled my backpack from behind to shield my chest, and stepped inside. The next second, a basin of cold water was splashed over my head. I blocked it with my backpack, remaining completely unharmed, though the bag was thoroughly drenched. The ones who splashed the water were 3 girls, clearly caught off guard by the situation. After a moment of stunned silence, they angrily shouted, "You bitch! How dare you scold Theo Jiang this morning? If you know what's good for you, you'd better apologize right now." "What if I don't apologize? Then don't expect to have a good time in class 13, I sneered, "as if you'd let me off even if I went along with you." After saying that, I rolled up my sleeves and grabbed a water pipe from the side. "Come on, all of you at once. I'd like to see just how you plan to make my life miserable." The 3 of them froze for a moment, their faces flushing with anger. "Bitch, I'll F*** you up." After saying that, one of them grabbed my hair, another tried to kick me in the stomach, and the third attempted to snatch the water pipe from my hand. 2 minutes later, I fastened my pants and walked out of the bathroom expressionlessly, pausing by the mirror to tidy my bangs. Behind me, the 3 girls lay on the floor, clutching different parts of their bodies in pain and moaning. Before leaving, I casually threw my backpack at one of their heads. "Ivy Song, you just wait. Damn it, wait, Sister Lu, this seems to be your backpack." "What?" After the restroom incident, I completely fell out with them. Since they couldn't beat me openly, they resorted to underhanded tricks behind my back. So on the first day of school, I returned home wearing the uniform that Shu Lu had deliberately cut up. The atmosphere in the living room was pleasant. Vera Song was sharing her impressive academic results with my parents. In fact, in my previous life, before the class division, Vera Song had always been a good student, a promising candidate for a top-tier university. However, after she entered class 13, she quickly declined, scoring less than 300 points in the final mock exam. My parents, thinking I had been idle and unproductive in the countryside, never had any expectations for me. Yet, I successfully secured a spot at Tsinghua University through a recommendation, completely surprising them. I had just arrived home when the warm atmosphere instantly froze. A few seconds later, my mother noticed the torn school uniform I was wearing and frowned, scolding me. "How did you tear such a big hole in your jacket?" Vera Song held my mother's hand and hinted, "This doesn't look like an accident. Sister, could it be that you got into a fight with someone?" Sure enough, my mother's expression darkened immediately. "Ivy Song, how many times have I told you, the people at this school are either rich or powerful, and you have no idea about their backgrounds. If you act recklessly and offend someone, what are we going to do? Your father spent so much money to send you there so you could focus on your studies, not to get into fights. Even if you can't help the family, at least don't hold your father back. Can't you learn from Vera? She even got double A's on her test today." My mother had said the same things in my past life, which drove me to study hard and eventually earn a spot at Tsinghua University. Even so, the scales in their hearts always tipped in favor of Vera Song. I looked at the mother-daughter affection between them and smiled mockingly. "Mom, have you forgotten who your real daughter is?" My mother's expression instantly froze. "Ivy Song, what kind of talk is that? Vera is outstanding and hardworking. Am I not allowed to praise her? Is a double A grade even considered outstanding?" I sneered, my gaze falling on Vera Song, who immediately pursed her lips and looked at me warily. "Next month, the school will conduct grade rankings in the test. I'll show you what true excellence looks like." With that, I slung my backpack over my shoulder and lazily walked back to my room. Behind me, my mother, seeing Vera Song's slightly pale face, awkwardly comforted her. "Your sister has always been reclusive. She just speaks harshly. Don't take it to heart. You know her grades, don't you?" But Vera Song's expression didn't improve in the slightest. Because she knew that in my past life, I had indeed gotten into Tsinghua University on my own merit, She clenched her fists, staring intently in the direction I had left, comforting herself inwardly. In a place like Class 13, if you can get out without losing a layer of skin, it's already a miracle. How could anyone still have the mind to study? As long as she worked hard, she definitely wouldn't be worse than me. However, a month later when the test results came out, I crushed Vera Song with a score of 680, and that was even after holding back. When I tossed the report card onto the coffee table, Vera Song was so angry her eyes turned red. My dad, who had always looked down on me, held the report card and examined it over and over, unable to believe it. "See, it's just a double A, nothing to brag about. If I wanted to, I could even get into Tsinghua or Peking University." My mom awkwardly pursed her lips, looking at me and then at Vera Song, unsure whether to praise me or comfort her. A moment later, Vera Song bit her lip and said, "Sister, you don't have to cheat just to make me look bad. Grades are just numbers. Only the knowledge you truly learn and keep in your mind is your own." I looked at her as if she were a fool. As soon as she said this, my father suddenly snapped out of his daze, frowned, and said, "No wonder your grades improved so suddenly. It turns out you were cheating." It's true that being in a place like Class 13 corrupts one's morals. What's the use of cheating? Can you cheat during the college entrance exam? My mother also chimed in. I really want to curse ****, but I'm not studying for them anyway. I rolled my eyes, put away my report card, and left without hesitation. Vera Song glared at me venomously from behind. She racked her pig brain and still couldn't figure out why. Even after a month, I remained completely unaffected in Class 13. She had once been in this class herself. Fewer than half the students showed up for lectures, so the teachers were also quite weary, just casually covering textbook material and never bothering with homework or exams. The classmates around me were either playing games or sleeping during class. Some even played movies or music out loud, making the environment extremely noisy. On top of that, she had spread rumors at the beginning of the semester that I was pestering Theo Jiang. Wouldn't Theo Jiang despise me? Wouldn't his admirers come after me? Actually, they did, but after the showdown at the start of the semester, once Theo Jiang realized I had no interest in her, he lost interest in me too and basically treated me as invisible. As for Shulu's petty pranks, to me, they were just child's play. After all, if it really came down to a fight, her whole group wouldn't be enough for me to lift a finger against. Vera Song observed for another 2 weeks and found that I was still sailing smoothly in Class 13. She was so furious her face turned green, biting her lip hard, and finally decided to take matters into her own hands. On Tuesday morning during self-study, as soon as I entered the classroom, I noticed a crowd gathered around my desk, whispering and occasionally snickering mockingly. Just another boring prank. I frowned impatiently and pushed through the crowd, only to see my desk covered in bright red paint with harsh words like "outsider meddling in someone else's family" and "get out of the Song family" scrawled all over it. The area around the seat was plastered with insults directed at me. The paint was so dark it had seeped into the wood, completely ruining the entire desk. Shulu stood nearby with her arms crossed, looking smug as she said, "Oh, Ivy Song, meddling in someone else's family. How despicable of you." I kept a straight face and tilted my head. "Did you do this?" Perhaps it was the icy look in my eyes, or maybe she remembered the scene from yesterday when I pinned her down and beat her up in the restroom. But Shulu instinctively took a step back and stammered, "Don't accuse an innocent person. This kind of old-fashioned, childish trick couldn't possibly be my style." I glanced up coldly. "Oh, if it wasn't you, then it must have been someone else." At 7:40 a.m., just after the morning self-study session ended, the quiet classroom of Class 1 was suddenly disrupted by the loud bang of the door being violently kicked open. Holding a desk with one hand and clutching a torn piece of paper in the other, I stepped into the classroom with an expressionless face. From Class 13 to Class 1, I had to pass through 2 floors and a hallway. Along the way, many people cast disdainful glances at me, and some even dared to curse behind my back, saying things like "shameless. How dare someone like this attend the same school as me, and can't you just get out of the school?" But I didn't care. True strength never fears rumors and gossip, but I won't let those who spread them get away with it. Vera Song was talking to her deskmate when, the next second, a sharp pain shot through her scalp, forcing her to look up and meet my cold, condescending gaze. I grabbed her ponytail tightly and, with great force, dragged her from her seat into the hallway. She screamed, "It hurts, Ivy Song. What are you doing? Are you crazy?" I didn't say a word, just pressed her head hard against my desk and said coldly, "Lick it clean." Vera Song's gaze fell on the bright red words, and for a moment, she looked guilty. But as her eyes caught the onlookers around her, she suddenly found her confidence again. "Ivy Song, what's wrong with you? I didn't write any of this. You're making false accusations. And now you're bullying me at school." As she spoke, tears welled up in her eyes. "I know you hate me. If you want Mom and Dad's love, just take it. Why do you have to treat me like this? I've been so tolerant of you. Why can't you just let me be?" The way others looked at me instantly changed. So this is Ivy Song, shamelessly staying at the Song family and causing trouble for others. I heard her parents refuse to publicly acknowledge or admit her identity. TSK, how embarrassing. This girl is way too violent. Look at how scared Vera Song is. There's no way she wrote those words on the desk. Maybe it was someone from class 13 who wrote it. They just love picking on Vera Song. I took a deep breath and decided to retract my earlier statement. True strength never fears rumors and gossip. Then I crouched down, broke off a table leg with my bare hands, and hurled it at the boy who had been cursing at me the most. "Can you shut up? Keep yapping, and I'll take you all down one by one." The surrounding classmates instantly fell silent. The moment Vera Song saw me take action, she panicked completely and started screaming like a madwoman. I ignored her, pressing her head down and rubbing it hard against the desk. The paint was still half dry, and it smeared all over her face. With her face covered in bright red paint, she looked like a vengeful female ghost. She wasn't pretending to be pitiful anymore. Instead, she started cursing loudly. "Ivy Song, you bitch, how dare you treat me like this? I'll make sure Dad kicks you out when we get back. You were always an outsider in the Song family. If it weren't for you, I would be the only one doted on at home, and your mother, clinging to Dad shamelessly. If my mom hadn't passed away early, do you think they would have had a chance to remarry? It's all your fault. You deserve this." Her piercing voice even reached class 13. After a while, Shulu and the others came down. Hearing Vera Song's words, they frowned and retorted bluntly, "So it turns out your mother was the other woman. I thought you were from a decent background. How can you be so shameless? Your mother destroyed someone else's family, and you still have the nerve to call the legitimate daughter an outsider." Vera Song was so angry that her lips turned pale, but she dared not retort due to Shulu's higher status and background. Seeing that the time was about right, I pressed Vera Song onto the desk, forcing her to open her mouth. "Don't you love spreading rumors?" I curled my lips into a faint, indifferent smile. "Since you wrote all this yourself, you'll be punished by eating it all." With that, I crumpled the paper into a ball and shoved it forcefully into Vera Song's mouth, forcing her to swallow it. Vera Song was in so much pain that tears streamed down her face, crying and retching as she glared at me with murderous rage. Gasps echoed around us, and even Shulu, the top girl in our group, couldn't help but shudder at my methods. "Ivy Song is really ruthless, Miss Lu. It's a good thing we didn't cause her much trouble." "Shut up, weren't those all misunderstandings before?" "Right, misunderstandings. Ivy Song is our classmate now." Amid the chaos, a furious shout rang out. "What's going on? What are you all doing? Have you lost all sense of law and order?" In the office, the grade-level director glared with wide, angry eyes. My dad was sitting next to the director, while my mom was beside them, holding Vera Song, who was sobbing and complaining. Only I stood before them, like a sinner awaiting judgment. I was studying in the classroom when my sister suddenly rushed in and did this to me. Everyone who saw it can testify. I didn't say a word, and I didn't write those insults about her either. Vera Song, convinced I had no evidence, firmly insisted she was innocent. My dad was so angry his chest heaved violently, and he raised his hand to slap me, but he missed. His wrist caught in my grip. For a middle-aged man, he wasn't as strong as me, and his face turned a deep, purplish red. My mother stood by, utterly disappointed, and said, "Ivy Song, I thought you were just a bit mischievous when you were a child in the countryside and would grow out of it, but I never expected you to become more and more unruly when it comes to the matter between your father and me, in the end. Jiao Jiao is also a victim. She lost her mother. Can't you just give in to her? I never thought you could be so jealous. It's truly disappointing. I curled my lips mockingly, then pulled out a slightly outdated model of a phone from my pocket. I pressed play, and Vera Song's shrill voice clearly rang out from the phone. And that mother of yours, clinging desperately to Dad. If my mom hadn't died so early, do you think they would have had a chance to remarry? Vera Song rushed forward in a panic to snatch the phone, but she was too late. My parents' previously sympathetic expressions froze on their faces. I lowered my eyelids. Do you still think she's innocent? Yes, I did hit her, but it was to protect my own mother and my own family, Mom and Dad. Am I not your daughter too? Their expressions shifted like a palette of colors. I looked at them sadly, my eyes gradually turning despairing and sorrowful, then let out a mournful cry. Pushed Vera Song, who was blocking the way, aside, and ran out of the office. As for me hitting a classmate and disregarding school rules and discipline, I believe that with the guilt I just stirred in my parents, they'll help me handle this matter. Sure enough, 3 days later, the disciplinary result came out. I only needed to submit an 800-word self-criticism, without even having to apologize. 3 days later, when I stepped into the classroom of Class 13 again, everyone looked at me with newfound respect. Shu Lu said to me sarcastically, "I didn't expect you to change your attitude so quickly." She had witnessed everything that happened in the office that day. I calmly opened my book and started memorizing vocabulary. "You seem quite capable, Ivy Song. Let's be friends." Shu Lu sat down in front of me and pressed her hand on my English textbook. I stared at her slender, pale hand for a few seconds. The Shu family were local real estate tycoons, and in terms of status, her father was far above mine. My dad sent Vera Song to this elite academy hoping she could build connections and pave the way for him. It could be said that friendships formed during high school are the most genuine connections, of course. I wanted to make friends, but not for my dad's sake. "Sure," I said, brushing her hand away, "but I won't bully the weak." Shu Lu laughed, revealing her 2 canine teeth, "as if I would do that either. If I hadn't heard you liked Theo Jiang back then, do you think I'd even bother with you?" Speaking of Theo Jiang, he hadn't shown up at school for a week. Shu Lu followed up on the topic. "You didn't know, last week, he got cornered at the back door of a bar, covered in injuries. And his wrist was fractured. He's probably still rotting away in the hospital now," I said carelessly. "With his family background, is he really afraid he can't get revenge? They're all just a bunch of lowlifes, fooling around all day. It's not that easy to catch them," Shu Lu said, holding her face in frustration. "Besides, his family is strict. If he uses his connections to start a fight, his father would probably skin him alive." After befriending Shu Lu, my campus life suddenly gained a group of friends. As I got to know her better, I found her quite interesting. Although she was a bit spoiled, she was very loyal. After learning about my grudge with Vera Song, she even offered to teach her a lesson to help me vent my anger, but I shook my head. Not yet. My grudge with Vera Song wasn't just some petty insult. In my past life, she stabbed me 13 times. Before I have the power to fight back, I need to plan carefully. After beating Vera Song before, she did behave for a while, but perhaps because she saw me getting close to Shu Lu, she gradually grew anxious and started intentionally or unintentionally approaching other rich second-generation heirs and children of officials. I watched it all, finding it rather amusing. She was reborn, but her mind wasn't. Since I was a child living in the village, I've known that only by having value yourself can you attract others to interact with you. Even after 2 lifetimes, she still doesn't understand this principle. Another half a month passed, and one morning, Shu Lu suddenly rushed into the classroom in a hurry, pulling me, who was busy solving problems, outside. "Ivy Song, you have to help me this time. Just take it as me owing you a favor. If you ever need anything in the future, feel free to come to me." I leaned against the wall and lazily looked up. "What's wrong? Why so urgent?" "Theo Jiang just got out of the hospital and was cornered by those thugs again. This time, there are even more of them, and it looks like they won't let her go without stripping a layer of skin off her. She doesn't want me to call the police. You have to help me." Seeing how serious I looked, Shulu seemed on the verge of tears. And I straightened up. "How many of them are there?" "There are 7 or 8, and they brought weapons. Theo Jiang only has 2 people on his side." As she spoke, she suddenly lost her nerve. "I must be out of my mind. With so many people, even you wouldn't be able to handle it. I'd better call the police. If she wants to scold me, so be it." She turned to leave, but I grabbed her arm. "Where are they? Take me there." 5 minutes later, the taxi stopped behind an unfinished building. As I approached, I heard the sound of a steel pipe hitting flesh, followed by Theo Jiang's muffled groan. Shulu was frantic, on the verge of tears, and rushed over to shield Theo Jiang. I then leisurely took off my school uniform jacket, folded it neatly, placed it on a brick, and only then walked over. The scene was chaotic, with 7 or 8 people surrounding Theo Jiang and others, each holding a club. In contrast, Theo Jiang looked quite disheveled, with visible injuries on his exposed skin. The one holding the steel pipe, a guy with dyed yellow hair, glanced me up and down and said in a flippant tone, "Oh, you were gone for so long. I thought you'd brought back some reinforcements. Just this little girl. Her thighs aren't even as thick as my arm." I stood firmly in front of them. I was already thin, and surrounded by 7 or 8 young men, I appeared even more slender and fragile. I lifted my eyes and looked at the blonde guy expressionlessly. "I swore I'd study hard after transferring schools, but because of you guys, I'm skipping class for the first time." The blonde guy was taken aback, then burst into laughter with the others. "So you're a good student, then what are you doing here, trying to entertain us? But with that flat figure of yours, we're not interested anyway." Theo Jiang frowned and said coldly, "Ivy Song, you and Shulu get out of here. I don't need you to interfere with my business." I rolled my eyes. "Who's interfering? By the way, if you end up hurting someone, are you going to take responsibility?" Theo Jiang was taken aback for a moment. "I can clean up the mess for you." "Ha ha ha, you little brat, you sure talk big. Do you think we're just messing around with you? With a mouth that tough, you'll definitely scream later." Before the blonde guy could finish his sentence, I suddenly lifted my leg and kicked him hard in the stomach, sending him flying 2 meters away. The ground was already uneven with bricks, and as he hit the rubble, his arm was immediately cut open, bleeding profusely. Dead silence. I picked up a brick and looked at the remaining 7. "He's done. What about you? Coming all at once? Or are you going to rescue your grandpa like the Calabash brothers?" 10 minutes later, 8 young men were lying on the ground, groaning in unison. I calmly picked up my jacket, zipped it up, turned my head, and glanced down, asking Theo Jiang in an innocent tone, "Can you still walk?" He seemed still stunned by the fact that I had taken down 8 young men with my bare hands. Suddenly meeting my harmless gaze, he paused for a moment, and his tone became noticeably more obedient. "I can, that's good. I'll leave the cleanup to you." I took out my old school phone and checked the time. There are still 15 minutes left in this class. If I head back now, I can still make it. I'm off. Bye, Shulu. So good at pretending. Theo Jiang, a little bit. But still, thanks. I waved my hand. Hey, it was nothing. The next day, Theo Jiang, who had been missing for almost a month, finally returned to school for class. After the morning exercise during the big break, I was doing some stretches. Just then, Theo Jiang called out to me from a distance. The surrounding classmates immediately gave us curious looks, especially since the incident of me scoring 0 to get into class 13 to chase after Theo Jiang had caused quite a stir before. Vera Song hadn't dared to provoke me during this time, but that didn't stop her from glaring at me with a dark look. Seeing that Theo Jiang had sought me out first after returning to school, her eyes lit up with excitement. Given Theo Jiang's personality, he would definitely torment me in front of everyone. Vera Song was looking forward to it, yet she waited and waited, only to see Theo Jiang bow his head and say something to me very politely. I was stretching absent-mindedly and nodded with a hint of impatience. Then, Theo Jiang handed me a bottle of water, almost as if trying to please me, and then he just left. Vera Song couldn't believe it. Why, in his past life, he bullied her so much. Yet he treats me so well, actually. Theo Jiang didn't say much to me. He just wanted to repay a favor by inviting me to watch a car race on the mountain this Saturday. I wasn't interested at first. But then I suddenly remembered that during dinner last night, Vera Song had bragged to our parents about a new guy she'd met who invited her to watch a car race at South Mountain over the weekend. The entertainment of the rich second generation is varied, and those who can afford to race cars are usually very wealthy. Although the Song family is well off, we can't quite afford that yet, and my dad was very pleased and praised Vera Song. I finished my last set of stretches and stood up, glancing at the girl with a venomous glare. Does she really think she can turn things around like this? I'll make sure she remembers this day forever. Saturday, at the peak of South Mountain, Theo Jiang drove Shu Lu and me up slowly. As soon as I got out of the car, I spotted Vera Song in the crowd. She was standing next to a guy with red hair, raising an eyebrow at me provocatively. Then she said something to the redhead, who glanced over and smirked playfully. Theo Jiang, I heard you got beaten up by some thugs from outside the school these past 2 weeks. How embarrassing. And you still dare to show up today. The redhead, with Vera Song in tow, walked closer and blurted out the taunt. Theo Jiang frowned slightly, glanced at him, and said, "None of your damn business." If anyone else dared to say that, Theo Jiang would have already thrown a punch. The fact that he didn't lay a hand on him could only mean this guy really had some connections. It seems Vera Song's efforts over the past 2 months hadn't been in vain. The redhead whistled and taunted, "Since you're here, let's race. I'll make you pay back double the 1 million you won from me last time." Shu Lu immediately protested. "Theo Jiang, his hand just recovered. He's not fit for racing. We're just here to watch the match today." Vera Song sniffled and retorted, "Watching is so boring. Or are you just too scared to race?" Theo Jiang just can't resist a challenge. He was about to burst out cursing, but the next second, I spoke up. "All right, let's compete." Everyone looked at me in shock, carrying my backpack like a school kid. I gave them a slight smile. Shu Lu tugged at me disapprovingly and whispered, "What are you doing? Theo Jiang hasn't fully recovered his hand, and it really affects his performance." They clearly came prepared. "Don't be impulsive." "I'm not being impulsive," I said, looking at Vera Song and speaking deliberately. "But it's just too boring with only the two of you competing. This person is my stepsister deliberately trying to stir up trouble. I demand to ride in the passenger seat of the race car with her." Everyone was taken aback for a moment. This kind of racing format wasn't unheard of, but it added difficulty for both the driver and their partner. Before Theo Jiang could refuse, the redhead raised an eyebrow excitedly. "Sure, I've never tried this before." A bad feeling rose in Vera Song's heart. Her face slightly pale, she tugged at the redhead's hand. "Let's not. I don't understand racing. I'd rather just watch from the sidelines." Redhead impatiently shook her off. "If your sister isn't scared, why are you so timid? Besides, you're not the one driving. Just sit there quietly and don't distract me." Theo Jiang reluctantly agreed. For him, this race today was unavoidable. Since he had to pay out 2 million anyway, the form it took no longer mattered. 10 minutes later, the track was cleared. Only Theo Jiang and Redhead's cars remained at the vast Nanshan mountaintop. As he fastened his seatbelt, Theo Jiang said, "In the past, with my familiarity of the Nanshan track, winning this race wouldn't have been a problem. But my wrist hasn't fully recovered, so I'm not very confident. You might feel uncomfortable in the passenger seat. If it gets too much, just let me know." The host's countdown and the deafening roar of the engine filled my ears. I glanced at Vera Song and flashed an excited smile. "All right." The whistle blew, and 2 race cars, one red and one black, shot out at high speed. Nanshan Circuit is a winding mountain road, with guardrails on the left and steep rocky cliffs on the right. The track is not very wide. At first, the 2 cars were neck and neck. But gradually, Theo Jiang began to struggle. The wrist fracture had a significant impact on Theo Jiang. Red Hair noticed this and didn't rush to speed up. Instead, he stayed just ahead of us, constantly cutting us off, forcing Theo Jiang to brake several times. After being cut off by Red Hair's car again at a 45-degree curve, he slapped the steering wheel in slight frustration. Ahead, Red Hair slowly extended his hand and gave him the middle finger. You can't win like this. I crossed my arms, letting the strong wind tousle my hair, and said nonchalantly. Theo Jiang spoke irritably. I know that too. I never intended to win in the first place. Then do you want to win? Nonsense. What about the 2 million? Who wants to lose? I nodded and said bluntly, stop the car. Theo Jiang was taken aback. What do you mean, if you want to win? Stop the car. At the same time, the race was being broadcast live on the big screen. It looks like Theo Jiang is going to lose. TSK. If I were humiliated like that, I would have given up long ago. No money, no face. Theo Jiang is really having it rough. Wait, why did he suddenly stop? Is he really going to quit the race? Look, everyone. Is he crazy? He actually switched places with the woman in the passenger seat. Can that girl even drive? At the same time, Theo Jiang, sitting in the passenger seat, also asked with the same soul-crushing despair, are you sure you know how to drive? I opened the door expressionlessly, closed it, fastened my seatbelt, and adjusted the seat a little. I glanced at him and added, hold on to the handle. He was startled. I said. I'm going to speed up. As for racing, I actually learned it by chance. In my previous life in the countryside, I loved driving the Beng Beng, 3-wheeled vehicle. From the village store, many people drove that thing. But I was the best and steadiest among them. The villagers all praised my natural talent for driving. Later, when I came to the capital, my parents didn't care about me. Vera Song bullied me, and I had to keep playing the role of the obedient student. When the pressure got too much, I'd spend money to experience street racing. There were plenty of racing enthusiasts at the club, and I often competed with them. Over time, I became somewhat involved in the scene, but I couldn't be bothered to explain all this to Theo Jiang. As soon as I finished speaking, I stepped on the gas. His car was modified to the extreme. With a roar, it shot forward like a wild beast. Red Hair was still driving leisurely. He glanced in the rearview mirror and sneered, it's been so long, and they still haven't caught up. Looks like they've given up. Vera Song sat in the passenger seat, her face pale from the wind. But she managed to relax a little. She put on her flattering smile again and said, yeah, I knew you wouldn't lose. But just as she finished speaking, a roaring sound came from behind. The next second, a black shadow shot past her side. A gasp came from the spectator seats. Wow, this girl really knows how to drive, and she's pretty fast. Looks like she's been driving for a few years. Suddenly, she seems a bit cool. The redhead snapped out of his daze, cursed under his breath, and quickly sped up to catch up. His skills weren't bad either, and he soon closed the gap. We raced forward, chasing each other. Theo Jiang came back to his senses and said with a complicated tone, I didn't expect you to have this skill. Just maintain your speed now. If he tries to cut you off later, you should. Before he could finish, I suddenly accelerated and executed a sharp drift. Oh my God, what is she trying to do? Is she going to cut him off in return? There's a 70-degree curve ahead. Are you trying to get yourself killed by cutting me off here? There's a rock wall right in front. I charged straight ahead and aggressively cut off the redhead's car. Caught off guard, he was forced to a stop and leaned out the window, yelling, are you insane? I gave him the middle finger. The redhead was stunned. A woman. In the following time, I kept forcing Redhair's car to stop, and it was always on some dangerous curves. After the race, Redhair's face had turned as dark as a pot, while Vera Song got out of the car unsteadily, ran to the side, and vomited heavily. Her face as pale as a sheet. After Theo Jiang received 2 million, he offered to give me 1 million, and I accepted without hesitation. After all, it was all my credit. Red Hair came over. Hey, let's exchange contact info. We'll race again next time. Not interested. After the race, this group of rich second-generation heirs threw a party at the mountaintop estate. I asked Theo Jiang about the amusement park being planned at the foot of the mountain. What, you want to invest? He said disapprovingly, this area is remote, and with the Nanshan Raceway up on the mountain, the amusement park will most likely end up unfinished. Even if it's built, it won't attract many visitors. I took a sip of my juice. Little did he know, in my past life, the Nanshan Raceway was soon demolished. After the mountain road was expanded, the amusement park was heavily marketed online and quickly became a viral attraction. even with outrageously high prices. People flocked there non-stop to enjoy the fireworks. Seeing the determination in my eyes, Theo Jiang had no choice but to say, "All right, how much do you want to invest?" 3 million. That's all the money I have on me. Theo Jiang also noticed and said in surprise, "You're investing it all? Aren't you afraid it'll go down the drain?" I shook my head. "No, I'm not afraid." "All right then, in that case, I'll invest 5 million too," after Shulu found out. She hesitated and also invested a small amount of 1 million. After the party, Theo Jiang and I exchanged contact information, and he said he would help me with the investment matters. On the way back, Vera Song rode in the car I was driving. Her expression was still very unpleasant, and she stared at me intently through the rearview mirror, as if trying to bore a hole through me. "Ivy Song, you did that on purpose." "Yes, I made you lose face in front of your crush. Do you think he'll ever pay attention to you again? Why are you treating me like this? It was your appearance that shattered my happy life. In my past life, you stole my family and the excellent grades that should have been mine. Why won't you let me go even after I've been reborn? Who's really not letting go of whom?" "Vera Song, you stabbed me 13 times, and I didn't die. I suppose that makes me kind." Vera Song laughed hysterically. "Ha ha ha. Then do you believe that if I could kill you once, I can kill you a second time? So Ivy Song, don't push me too far, or I'll make you die even more miserably than in your past life." I suddenly opened my eyes and smiled meaningfully. "So of course I know, Vera Song. This time, just enjoy the torment I'm going to bring you. Don't worry, I'll return those 13 stabs to you, in a different way." After saying that, without any hesitation, I jumped out of the car. In an extremely difficult yet self-protective way, I landed relatively safely. I touched my scraped leg and cursed under my breath. The next second, a loud bang echoed as the car crashed into the mountain wall. 15 minutes later, my parents arrived along with an ambulance. They stared in disbelief at the devastating scene of the car crash. Without a second thought, I turned and threw myself into their arms. Wah! I wanted to hit the brakes, but the car's brakes were broken. I was so scared. I warned Vera Song to jump, but she refused and even scolded me for trying to scare her. I had no idea it would turn out like this. I'm so scared. Wah! If it were in the past, they would have definitely scolded me. However, the two of them exchanged a glance, recalling the true nature of Vera Song they had witnessed earlier. After a moment, my mother sighed and patted my back. "As long as you're okay." Vera Song wasn't seriously injured either. Just with 2 broken legs and multiple fractures all over her body. A daughter like this no longer holds any value to my selfish father. A selfish person like him only wants an outstanding daughter to serve as a tool for climbing the social ladder. Now that Vera Song is disabled, he's noticed that I excel academically and am close to people like Theo Jiang and Shu Lu, so he's shifted his attention back to me and is even less likely to pursue the matter of the car accident. And because of the previous recording incident, Vera Song has completely broken my mother's heart, so my mother no longer wants to take care of her. After she wakes up, we'll just hire a caregiver to look after her. On the day I went to visit her, he was going crazy in the hospital room. I peeled an apple and sneered at her. "What's wrong? It's been half a month, and you still haven't accepted the fact that you've become a useless person." Vera Song stared at me with reddened eyes. "Ivy Song, you just wait. I will definitely asterisk. You can't even move a muscle right now. How are you going to kill me? I will definitely kill you, just like before. Before that, you'd better figure out how to endure the torment I have in store for you." After I finished speaking, I rang the bell to call the nurse and asked her, "Did the doctor mention any precautions?" "Yes," the nurse recited as if listing off a familiar list. "No spicy or irritating foods that could aggravate the wound, no contact with cold water, no strenuous movements, and keep it dry and clean. In that case, follow what you just said and take turns caring for her." I emphasized the word caring. The nurse paused, looking at me uncertainly. "How much did my dad pay you?" 12,000 a month. "I'll give you 30,000. Understand?" The caregiver was silent for a moment. "Understood." 2 months later, Vera Song's wounds worsened. When my father went to visit her, she cried and screamed. saying that I had someone abuse her. How could that be? I looked up innocently and handed my father a perfect English test score. I've been busy studying all day. How would I have time to deal with anything else, sister? I know you're feeling depressed and unwilling to cooperate with treatment, but you can't just falsely accuse me like this. Upon hearing this, Vera Song immediately started cursing. Stop pretending, Ivy Song. You bitch, you just want to mess with me. You're still acting, aren't you disgusting? My father couldn't stand it any longer and coldly scolded her. Enough, Vera, how have you become like this? Acting like a shrew. Apologize to your sister right now. I don't know, I'm clearly the victim. Why should I apologize, Dad? Why are you taking her side? Am I not your favorite daughter? My father stood up impatiently and said, look at yourself. Do you even deserve to be my daughter? After saying this, he left without another word. From that moment on, he never visited her again, leaving her in a dark room as her wounds festered and rotted. In the end, when there was no other option, my father sent her abroad and never bothered with Vera Song again. The day the news of her death arrived, I had just finished my college entrance exams and received my acceptance letter from Tsinghua University. When the news came, my parents were utterly shocked. They rushed abroad overnight to investigate and only then learned that Vera Song's wounds had festered. Although she had received various treatments, she was left with many lasting complications. My father had originally left her a sum of money, but she still harbored thoughts of revenge against me and tried to secretly arrange for someone to bring her back to the country. Unfortunately, the person she trusted turned out to be a fraud who swindled her out of all her money and even stole the only phone she had to contact her family. Unable to afford her medical bills, Vera Song was kicked out of the rehabilitation center and ultimately died a tragic death on the streets. By the time my father arrived, not even her full remains could be recovered. While they were busy handling affairs abroad, I received the first share of the profits from my previous investment back home, over 40 million. Theo Jiang got even more, and Shu Lu also earned her first significant sum of money. Both were very happy and treated me to a meal. As the wine flowed freely, the three of us raised our glasses. They smiled and said to me, Ivy Song, thank you. We're so grateful to have met you. We used to think that people like us would only ever be able to rely on our families and live as spoiled rich kids. I smiled faintly, thinking about Vera Song's past life. Theo Jiang was someone who clearly distinguished between love and hate, and Shu Lu was a loyal and righteous person. If Vera Song hadn't been so self-absorbed, persistently chasing after them, repeatedly provoking Shu Lu, and looking down on everyone just because she was the favored one in the Song family, how could she have ended up in such a state, if she hadn't been so ambitious, intent on doing evil, and instead avoided them after her rebirth, focused on studying and improving herself? How could her parents, who doted on her so much, have allowed her to die alone abroad? No matter what, her fate was entirely of her own making.